welcome back to Bored to Death.
Hey.
There has been so much stuff lately because this is kind of where Bored to Death podcast, I feel like we were made for times like this.
When people can't get away?
Because no one has to. I mean, obviously you're bored to death.
Obviously.
So, and that's what we're built on, folks. I don't want to insinuate we saw this coming and that we're trying to capitalize off it, because that would be wrong.
It'd be terrible.
Yeah, that would be sort of like our government. But or the media.
Everybody.
Whatever. But that's neither here nor there.
Never let a tragedy go to waste.
Right. That's neither here nor there. But we guys, we had some weird stuff happen on our last episode, so we're gonna sort of weave some of the stuff we talked about on that into this new one. But we'll get to that. Before we do, let's give some shout outs and talk about the people that support our podcast, because we love them. If you've I've learned from past mistakes not to refer to these as
That's those things. Yeah,
certain
yeah.
intimate.
Just stop.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Not helping?
Was it you or you that referred to that? You guys, that it's like bumper bowling, and you guys are the people.
Oh, it's probably King. That sounds like something he would say.
Keep me going in a straight line.
We are the bumpers.
I was thinking about it when I was on my ride the other day, pissed off against the headwind, and it made me laugh for a second before I went back to being pissed off.
Before back doing that.
Yeah.
Good.
So yeah, as these bracelets I'm wearing, if you're watching this on YouTube, for Ocean. They've got a fantastic mission. They're cleaning up our ocean's coastlines. They obviously, like a lot of people, their operations have slowed down a little bit, but I think if there's anything that could count as essential, it's taking care of waste and garbage right now. So that is an essential mission, in my opinion, and my colleagues as well, I believe.
I agree.
Each one of these bracelets accounts for 1 pound of ocean garbage.
How many do you have there?
I think
up to 5,
1, 2,
6?
3, 4, 5, 6, and I've got 4 more at home.
Nice.
So I know I contemplate wearing them all, but I don't know where the point of friction where it becomes too much. Where it becomes like this guy just wants everybody to know that he's so all about the oceans.
There is a certain point where like the neck thing.
See,
like there's a certain point where it gets.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
the issue with that would be more so if you stop people and went, hey, you see all these bracelets somewhere?
Yeah.
You know what they're for?
Yeah.
You need to do this. So
let
you
me
need
tell
to
you-
go support them.
Right.
Let me tell you something about.
Right. Let me tell you about why I'm such a great person and
Exactly.
you're a piece of shit.
Go get them door to door. They can't leave their house.
Right.
Unless you stopped everybody
Okay.
and did that, okay.
All
But
right.
if they stop you and go, hey, what's up with all the bracelets? And you explain it to them, it's a conversation starter.
Because thank you. And I have quite a bit of arm to go.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they do-
but see, your arms are bigger than mine. I could wear them all the way up. That'd be totally fine.
I don't know. I'm getting
don't think.
smaller as the quarantine goes on. The
Uh-oh, here we go. Here we go.
I'm getting drunker.
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Where's my gains?
Yeah, there they are down the street. Stop, Gaines, or I shall say stop again.
Because I'm not chasing you.
Yeah, exactly.
King doesn't run.
Hell,
Oh,
if
God.
I'm running,
They made a song about this.
running, you better turn and follow me because there's some bad shit behind me right now.
Yeah, or just dig a hole right where you are.
If I'm running, you better follow.
But so our friends at 4 Ocean, awesome mission. Thank you for doing what you guys do. They also have a variety of shoreline cleanup packages, reusable bags. They've got one of those survival straw things that they have. I actually let me
Life
correct
straw?
myself. I'm not sure if it's one of those, but it's a reusable straw.
It might just be a reusable straw.
So don't go
made with plastic.
sucking up sewage with it or anything like that.
Is it metal?
Yes.
Okay. So
I think
probably,
it's just reusable.
Probably
yes.
just
Unless it says survival straw.
Okay, so let's rewind 30 seconds to where I didn't suggest that you use it to survive.
please don't.
Yeah.
Please don't.
There's on the YouTube video there'll be a 5-minute long, legalese
Disclaimer.
bullshit that just comes down and says whatever he says is stupid. Do not listen to it.
Just a blanket statement.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't care what he says. It's just don't.
So there's and they've got hats. I've got a couple of those. They're great. And so yeah, 4Ocean, check them out. That's at 4Ocean on Instagram, 4Ocean on Facebook, and 4Ocean.com on the interweb.
We should do that this summer.
It's I started looking into it more, and I registered us as a like a certified whatever, just in case they have an event that's within like 50 miles of us that we could participate in it. But I misunderstood of what you could actually do. I thought you could set up your own 4Ocean event.
Oh, you said
And you may be able to, but how I deciphered that part of the website, it didn't look like it. So 4Ocean, I know you don't listen, but by chance you accidentally do listen to this.
You're stuck at home in the camp.
That could, if you're stuck at home like the rest of us, sorry, saps. That might be a cool idea because we'd love to do something like that. Of course, when things like social distancing are lifted, but
Just go to Florida next year after spring break.
yeah, that's
Did
where
you
they are. I
see
think
that?
Boca Raton, I think is where
Oh, they probably picked
they're-
up a shit ton of garbage then. Did you see those
the
pictures?
beaches.
My God.
Oh yeah,
College students are
assholes.
terrible people.
Yeah,
Animals.
yeah.
I mean,
The
Animals.
we were there.
Let's not discredit animals.
Okay.
yeah. I
Assholes.
There's a certain dignity to animals that I don't.
there is. Thank you.
They only shit. They don't leave garbage.
Yeah, and they like when my dog shits, he kicks stuff
He does his
over
best
it
without
so,
thumbs.
Yeah, he at least he tries. He feigns an attempt. Yeah.
Mine doesn't.
Yeah. But another cool thing about what's with the ocean shorelines and and nice physical activity you might do alone or with a partner or something like that is go around and pick up garbage because there are a lot of people that are out more than there should be. And because no one's watching them, it seems like people have a higher propensity to leave their shit lying around out in public.
I haven't noticed because I haven't left my house.
I've rode my
I was
bike
lying.
a lot, and the route I take sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I gotta dip down into the park over at Howard Avenue.
yeah.
And a lot of shit. Yeah,
No kidding.
probably more people than should be there. Like some groups of like 20 or 30.
Yeah, let's.
That's all you had to do. That's all you had to do to get America to go outside was tell them they couldn't. That was it. That was all. None of this play for
Isn't
60 shit. Like
Isn't
the
that
whole.
how it usually works?
Well, and that's the funny thing is we all knew that, but no one ever used it. No one was ever like, I got this great idea to get America's fit. Let's make it illegal to walk. And people would be like, yeah, fuck you. And they just take off walking for no reason. And you'd be like, we'll arrest a few, make it look like we're trying.
It's true.
That's all you have to do. With Americans, I don't know about the rest. I mean, the Italy videos looked like they pretty much just went inside.
Yeah, because people were dropping like flies. They were.
Right, it was a much smaller country, and their death rate was pretty bad.
Wait, where is this?
Italy.
Oh, right.
All those
right,
videos of them
right.
singing to each other.
The
and then-
second-
Yeah, across from
yeah.
apartment building.
Was it the second highest COVID deaths so far?
Yeah, and a very small population. Like, they got hit hard.
Yeah, they get hit hard and fast.
America's like, deadly disease, can't go outside. I'm going to start walking. Never walked before in their life, but
Yeah.
fuck it. Here I go.
And that's sort of like our...
That's how they got
It's
me.
what we do, man.
It's such an odd thing about our culture. It's like our... I don't
no.
really think hard about this, but I think sometimes our culture and our freedoms will ultimately be our demise.
Hey, probably.
Have you seen how far Russia's gone? We're gonna be fine.
Yeah,
We're gonna be all right.
I didn't want to forget. Do you want to know the funny reason I didn't stop and say anything to those groups of 20 or 30?
Go on. Because there was 30 of them and you were scared you're going to get your ass kicked?
No.
Oh.
I thought it could be one Mormon family. Ba-doom.
Okay, so from there, any other shout outs?
Of course, our friends Shannon, Abigail, and Kate. For the first time, I've remembered all three of their names at
I'm
once.
so impressed. This quarantine's doing you good.
It has. I'm getting less dumb. Knock on wood. But Kate, Abigail, and Shannon at the Hot Test Foundation, they continuing their mission to help get animals adopted, dogs and cats, clean up the mess after the massive wildfires in Australia. It's a huge mission, and when something like that happens, when we stop hearing about it on the news, it does in no way, shape, or form means that the problem has been taken care of or wrongs have been amended. It just means that our media, which, oh man,
Don't.
Just keep
don't.
going. Keep going.
found something that they thought would be better to.
There you go.
Whatever. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So moving on. Yes. Bumper bowling. And let's see what else. Oh, I want to give a shout out to one of the things I've been doing to get through quarantine is I've become obsessed with pirates. So if you haven't seen the show Black Sails, it's fucking fantastic.
You're only 3 years too late, or not too late, behind.
In life in general.
Yeah, true.
But so
Mister, I'd go out and do stuff. Now I'm stuck at home. I'm watching TV.
so, yeah, I do. But it's cool. I'm discovering shows like Dexter, Black Sails. But
Have you watched Tiger King?
No,
I know.
I'm not going to. Don't look.
I'm
at me.
going to.
I'm not.
My wife started.
I'm gonna have to at some point.
Yeah.
Like I know it's inevitable.
When we go on a break, I'll show you a video, and then you'll see why I won't be watching Tiger King.
Okay.
But anyway, this pirate kick I've been in, it led me to this cool company that you can find on Instagram, which is called Maritime Supply Company. They're you can at them. I've been getting cool pirate-ish jewelry, and you probably can't see it on here, but it's a cool anchor. It's got I believe it's called a Balboa skull. It's like a dead Spanish conquistador.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I'm a big fan.
Yeah, and it probably goes along with everyone's view of Spanish conquistadors. You know, they
I think so.
They're all
unless
dead.
you're from Spain. You know, which I would
Spanish
I would
flu.
understand that you wouldn't want that. You
Does Spain have anything attributed to them that's not negative?
Ooh,
Conquistadors. They got the Spanish flu.
they fought off the Moors.
No one knows that.
Did that? I guess.
Yeah.
Could that come off as anti-Muslim?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Never. That was not the intention. I'm just saying it was something of note
I was
that
gonna
they
say,
did.
are you sure? Ooh,
What?
they fought off the Moors. That's exciting.
I know. Coming from a Jew, that sounds really backhanded.
Yeah.
There's a little bit. There's a little bit.
Oh man. Yeah, but what about that one time they? Never mind.
Yeah, please.
No, they got nothing.
The well, in
Paella.
the Spanish flu, they kind of got they sort of got stuck with that. A lot of interesting stories have come about this.
Should we talk about that when we come back?
Yes. Let's take a break.
Did you have anybody else? Care for Wild? I saw they posted
Yes.
a cute video of a rhino today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I've been forgetting about Care for Wild. Guys, the first and still, and I don't want it to be lost on the fact, still my most, the thing I'm most passionate about, and we are here at Bored to Death, is about conservation efforts and the saving the wild rhinos, black rhinos, white rhinos, the ones that are left, and a what's the word I'm looking for? A reserve, a place where they keep these animals. Thank you. Care for Wild Rhino Sanctuary is in the Kruger National Forest in South Africa, and they are doing a phenomenal job. In times like we're going through, we got to try to find silver linings. And one silver lining like this, because the eating of certain exotic animals has been attributed to the uprising of COVID-19 and other forms of coronavirus, it has stopped a lot of the illegal trade of endangered animals.
No shit.
Yeah. So it's
that's where they draw the line up.
Yeah, it's an odd byproduct that's coming from all this happening. So this is a small recovery period for them and for some other species. Time to kind of maybe look back and see when everything does get back up and running again, how we can maybe, as efficiently or close to go about the businesses that we run and the trade that goes on and not affect certain species as much as we do. And because we've taken this time to learn how to be better at what we do. So thank you very much for bringing that up, and check them out. That's at Care for Wild on Instagram or careforwild.com, and you can do a monthly donation to them. That's what I do. It just comes right out of your checking account. It's money I would have spent on something else and probably not even known. So might as well go to a good cause. Any of you guys?
No, we've covered it all.
Okay, but before we tune out, I wanted to make sort of a tribute to an individual. I had not heard of him until my mother told me about him and reminded me about how she played his music for me and my brothers as a child. The musician, singer, songwriter I'm talking about is John Prine. John Prine passed away last night, I believe, the age of 70 something or other. A fantastic music career. You think that there's nothing that can bring liberals and conservatives together. Both George W. Bush and Barack Obama referred to him as one of the greatest singer-songwriters of our generation. And Bruce Springsteen referred to him as a national treasure. I just want to send out this first segment on a chorus of his song "In Spite of Ourselves" that I think is fitting. In spite of ourselves, we'll end up sitting on a rainbow. Against all odds, honey, we're the big door prize. We're going to spite our noses right off of our faces. There won't be nothing but big old hearts dancing in our eyes. So, yeah, I've totally compromised
everything you believe in.
Everything I believe in. And guys, if you've been a listener, you know I constantly ridicule Chris and Luke for playing fucking video games.
Mostly me.
Yeah, mostly Chris. Well,
Because I only never mind when
it's
I
because
play
you
them.
wear glasses too, though.
Yeah.
So
For now.
that's true. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll never know because you'll never see him on camera.
Right, you won't.
But Chris is bravely going in to get LASIK surgery done here at the end of the month. But as I alluded to earlier, I've gotten so into pirates that I have. This is so hard to admit.
Go on.
I feel like I'm at an AA meeting.
It's worse than that.
Like, like confession. Like it's
More like that.
something like that.
I don't want to say I'm judging you right now, but I'm judging you right now.
But so at the conclusion of Black Sails last night, having nowhere to turn for my pirating obsession, the only place to go is this Assassin's Creed video game that's centered around pirates.
Black Flag, you can say it. Assassin's Creed, Black Flag.
Assassin's Creed Black Flag. At us at Bored to Death Podcast.
I mean, the game is only like 6 years old, but whatever.
Well, I mean, I was a few years behind on Black Sails to begin with, right?
True.
Are there have you played it?
Yes.
Stupid
Did you have
question.
any more stupid questions?
Yeah, thank you. Well played.
I don't play every video game, just ones that pique my interest.
So, do you remember some of the main characters in the game?
Yes.
So, if I throw some names at you.
Well, Blackbeard is in the game.
Okay.
So is Jason Kidd.
Edward Teach.
Actually, or Edward Teach.
Yeah.
I watch the show, so I know the names now.
Well, one of the fun things about watching it was, and again, because we have more time than we've ever had to look this shit up. So as I watch it, like I'm on like constantly on Wikipedia, like looking up these characters, like if they're fictional, non-fictional, you know. And one of the cool things about the show Black Sails is they're 95% of these people were real, like Edward Teach, Billy Bones, Captain Flint, Captain Jack Rantham, the Guthries.
What they did was wild enough. I'm sure screenwriters were like, should we create a character? And like, well, can you create somebody wilder than this? And they're like, no, he'll do.
Yeah, you're probably right. Like Edward,
some wild shit. Dude.
One of my favorite ones, Captain Edward Vane. Like he was fucking ruthless, but incredibly charismatic as well, and which a lot of these pirates were, and which is
just like outlaws in America in the mid 1800s.
Yeah, I think very similar. It just changed like the medium of how they did it. By sea versus
psychopathic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because the guys like like Capone and some of the big gangsters, like it very charismatic, could rally a lot of people, but they were certifiably crazy as well. But anyway, so guys, next time you see me, I'm probably gonna put on 30 pounds and be pasty white and covered in zits from moving in with my mom and playing video games.
Okay. No. We're stopping you right now. We're stopping you right now. Right now.
I was have nothing but like a video game console and a gallon of Lubriderm.
Ugh.
It's from I for some reason I insinuate just like hardcore video game playing with like just like hunkering down and watching hours of like porn or something
apparently,
too.
I
don't know.
This is what he thinks of you.
These are stereotypes that have built up over decades.
As a nerd, I'm taking offense.
All right.
And when you cross over, I'm gonna laugh in your face.
It's
only gonna start with this. Once you see how crazy it looks and you're like, oh my god, this is amazing, what is up with these graphics, blah 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 blah, and you want to play the next game,
mark my words,
laugh in your face.
This starts and ends with Assassin's Creed's Black Flag.
I'm gonna put money on it. When you're done with that game, I'm gonna get you on Red Dead Redemption.
Oh yeah,
and you won't be turning.
In the words of
just start him on the second one.
In the words of George Bush 1, no new taxes.
He said that?
Yes.
Yeah, he did way back when. And guess what?
Spoiler alert, it was followed up by a lot of more taxes.
So,
let's talk about the news media for a second.
This is great. I love these parts.
You ready to go?
Yeah. To kind of give you guys a quick recap, obviously, not going to tell you that the coronavirus is here because you know that. But our last episode where we had some kind of AV audio video issues, we lost some stuff. So I'm just going to recap some of the things we touched on, like viruses. What are they? What are they made of? How they work, sort of things like that. So I'll and because of some of those processes, how we are where we are, in a matter of speaking. So I'll try to do my best to convey that. I think I'll probably do better now than I did last week because that stuff is kind of marinated a little bit and makes a little more sense.
I'm ready.
So, we all know we're dealing currently with COVID-19. COVID-19 is obviously a coronavirus, as we've heard to nauseum on the news and radio. It is one of many viruses in the coronavirus family, which a lot of people don't know. We've seen it before in the form of SARS, which I believe it was severe acute respiratory syndrome. If you could,
sounds right.
Okay, but if you could verify that for me, and MERS, which was, and I think Chris, you looked up the actual name for it. I think because it was MERS was Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. But on the last episode, we were trying to be consistent with calling things by their scientific name, if at all possible, just to avoid any backlash that might come with that. Because we want we don't want to stigmatize. We know how biases work, and we're not playing the game right if we're compounding that. So, at least that's our stance here on Bored to Death. But as I said, SARS and MERS, parts of the coronavirus family, which attack your upper respiratory system and the cells of your alveoli, which are sitting there in your lungs. When things start attacking them, you start getting some big problems because, for a couple reasons. One, it's the major gas exchange, waste exchange when you inhale and exhale. And when that starts getting messed up, there's a trickle-down effect because a lot of what we do, when I say a lot of, I mean everything, has to do with how much oxygen is perfusing within our systems and the efficiency of it. If you've ever gone to the doctor and you put on one of those pulse oximeters, that's what they're checking is your oxygen perfusion, and because that's very important. So, God damn it, I lost my train of thought.
I was sitting over here as a bumper, and you never hit me.
Yes. I think maybe I bounced over you. I don't know. Now that we know that's a possibility, we're just going to have to create a tent. We have to hang someone from the roof.
We need a third.
Yes.
Aaron should be here.
Oh, God. So, but anyway, so those are going on, and we've got different types of coronaviruses that exist out there, just to kind of, and again, I'm just getting you guys kind of up to speed and recapping what we went over last time. We've got alpha, beta, gamma, and delta, and those are the 4 groups of coronaviruses that exist right now. Now, alpha and beta, we got alpha, which is stems from bats, which is where SARS and MERS shoots off from. We've got beta, which is an offshoot of rodents. And we've got gamma and delta, which is an avian species, which has some links to H1N1, which I believe was bird flu. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't know.
We went over that last time as well.
Okay, yeah. So just recapping, and so a lot of these,
H1N1 was the swine flu.
was it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What was bird flu?
What was the avian flu?
Go on, I'll look it up.
Okay. The so Luke's gonna look that up just so we can get the most accurate information to you guys.
Bird flu is H5N1.
Okay, H5N1. And I believe that was a strain of influenza, not necessarily coronavirus,
Strains
correct?
of the influenza virus. That's correct.
Okay. So so we have those, and we have kind of where they're stemming off of and where they start. An interesting thing with these viruses is that in their origin of where they originate species wise, in a lot of cases they're not dangerous to that species at all, or in some cases that they are. Mutations happen and things of that nature, just like with any other virus. But the big, and why that happens is, and this is probably as good a time to get into that as any, is a virus is a living organism. And like every other living organism, its sole purpose in existence is to replicate its DNA. And so it will do whatever it takes. If you're well versed in how adaptation and evolution works, then this will make perfect sense to you. So its sole purpose is to replicate its DNA, and it will do so or figure out a way to do so in any way that it can, which is kind of scary.
They're resourceful.
Yeah, it's incredibly efficient, and I know, and we talked about it in the last podcast that not only will they do this, but they're also a parasite. They need a human host. They need the energy and the goings on within a host cell in order to replicate their DNA or RNA and perfuse throughout your body. There was another place I was going to go with that, but again, I forgot. So Alzheimer's is real, especially when you're 41 and have it in full effect. So kind of the gist of what I'm saying is its sole existence is to keep existing, just like humans. Like we have the setup that we have the physiology and biology that we have ultimately to create more of us. And
so what happened to us?
It's
totally fucked this up.
Okay, this is the very un-PC version. Oh, here we go. Is that
I like
this is I'm not condoning this in any way, shape, or form, but with the I am condoning it because it's advancements in medicine. So it's for good reason that this happened, but one of the byproducts of it is just being honest and transparent. Is normally what happens in nature, just like within viruses. If a virus can't mutate, it'll die off and go away. Humans with what would normally be debilitating conditions would follow the same route. Because of advancements in medicine, which are good, that has changed the narrative of how things go.
Before, when it was strong, survival of the fittest, now it's anyone can survive.
Yeah, survival of the
One that can afford health care?
Yes, thank you. That was the best. Yeah, and then even within that, you have different strata of healthcare that you can't afford. So it's, and again, I don't want to be misconstrued with saying that that's bad in any way, shape, or form, because it's not. Some people I hold very dear to my heart, and close family members and friends, obviously have survived as a result of these amazing advancements. And it's a good thing because they have a ton more to give. And I think that is more than makes up for, any possible negative side effect of not having that advancement. As these people have a lot more to teach, a lot more to give to society that wouldn't have been here prior. And so anyone that thinks that maybe these the advances in medicine have hindered our the whole survival of the fittest deal, it's I would make the argument that it has done the reverse of that, because those who may not have been here prior can now pass on information to more and more generations. So that's sort of an aside, but how did we get there?
I bumped you right off. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay.
You failed at your job.
While I'm being confused,
It's in lane 7 now.
while I'm being confused, a huge screw up, and because this is what holds us together, really. And what I'm referring to is Topo Chico. It's got a twist of grapefruit, which is delicious and refreshing. We can all agree on that.
I love it.
Yeah. So if you're curious as to what the sound of refreshment sounds like, curiosity something. Yes.
Nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Can you guys think of a better one? Come on. Chris
No, we're
is dying over there.
He's wandering around
Oh, God.
the 1/4 of the studio he can be in without being
Yeah.
seen on camera.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. I'm
Oh
sorry.
my god.
No, that was great.
I'm not even sure the word because I lost it right at the same time. You had me pulled in. You pulled me in, and then you let go.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just really...
You piqued my curiosity, and then right at the end there.
Oh, God. So I think where did I leave off? I was talking about crossover into other species, right?
Yep.
Okay. So, so how these viruses generally accomplish what I was talking about earlier, the replication, is they will, and I'm going to try to abbreviate all this so we can get into some good meat, the meat and bones of stuff, is when they jump from one species to another. There's a specific name for that. I can't find it in my notes. I'm not going to flip through it and try. Google it. This is a time to learn. You have time, which will be a reoccurring theme throughout this podcast.
All the time you have on your hands.
Yeah,
now.
you gotta. If you're uninformed right now, you're just fucking lazy. I'm just gonna say that.
Or you have other things you want to watch on Netflix.
No, lazy.
Okay.
Are you looking for an acronym or a word? I got a CST.
Either or.
Cross-species transmission is CST.
Oh, really? Okay. CST.
That's correct.
Cross-species transmission.
Which is a thing that's going on right now, apparently. You can give it to your cat and or dog.
And tigers.
Which should be interesting.
No, there's a tiger in New York Zoo.
right.
Yeah, because apparently one of the zookeepers had it.
Which will be interesting because it would and good for study to see, because very rarely, the only virus I can think of off the top of my head that went from human to animal, and now this is very specific, and I just found this out, and I think it's probably news to a lot of people as well. Smallpox was a human-specific virus.
No shit.
It did not emanate from anything other than humans. So, and it got passed around a little bit and didn't have, well, between humans more than a little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
It created massive carnage.
Decimated a few.
God, I think, 100 million? Was it?
Oh, it's great. I think it was 100 million.
So that'll be interesting to study coronavirus if the mutation from jumping from animal to human, mutating to be copacetic. Is that the word when things are...
I've actually never known what that word meant.
Okay. I don't think I'm using it correctly.
Go with it.
That'll be just in line with our earlier episodes. But how that virus goes from human back to animal, if that, what kind of changes that makes. But in particular, like I was stating, the mutations happen most. They're always mutating because, as we discussed, they want to replicate. But when it jumps from one species to another, when it gets involved with a host that it's not used to, that's when we see massive jumps in the evolution of viral activity. And in this case, I'm going to try to... I kind of did a poor job.
We'll do it over here. Okay. I'll hold this.
There we go. All right.
This is my purpose in life.
So is that getting on the camera, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So is what we have here is a loose diagram of a virus. Now, I'm glad we're doing this now because I got this wrong the first time we filmed this. But so if you can see this, I don't know how clear it is, but we have within here the genome of the virus, which can show up as either DNA or RNA, and that coincides with just how you think of DNA and RNA in humans. That's where our genetic makeup is stored, all that information. So you've got DNA or an RNA. And then that's within here. And the DNA and RNA within a virus has specific shapes, which are unique to each virus, like HIV, HTLV, Corona, Ebola. Those would all have a unique shape of DNA or genome within the virus there. So surrounding that, we have... RNA plus, which is referred to as a nucleocapsid protein, which acts as a pseudoprotective layer surrounded by a lipid protein, which is this last layer out here. And that lipid protein varies in thickness, and the thickness of the lipid protein is really important because that, as far as a disinfecting and antibacterial, it's important to know the thickness of the lipid protein because that's how much or how strong that needs to be to the cleaner or disinfectant needs to be to break down that lipid layer. So the DNA and RNA and nucleocapsid can be destroyed of the virus. So it's not present anymore. One of the areas I got wrong in the first one was I thought out on the outskirts of the lipid protein, and I'm trying to describe this as well as I can if you're just listening instead of watching, is these, they're called spikes. And if you're watching, there are these little things on the outskirts. If you're listening, take that circle you drew of the lipid protein around the RNA and DNA and nucleocapsid and picture some little stems poking off from the outskirts of it.
They look like lollipops.
Yeah, they do. And coronas are shaped slightly different, where hence it gets its name corona crown. So one of the mutations that can happen, which is really interesting, and to help this make sense, later, each host cell, whether it's from an animal or human, has receptor cell sites. Those receptor cell sites are in a certain shape, more or less, as well. So the dependency or the propensity of a virus to be able to stick to a human host cell is predicated a lot on the shape that's on the end of these spikes. In coronaviruses, where it's more of a crown shape, its propensity to be able to mutate and attach more efficiently onto a human host cell. That's one of the more dangerous things about this particular virus is the ends of the spikes are mutating in a more and more efficient way to where they can attach onto the host cells that you and I all carry together. And so that makes its ability as a contagion to stick and spread easier.
That makes sense.
Compounding that, once it does that, the makeup of the cell is mutates more frequently as well. So it's at a speed that far surpasses, from, and this is a theory I started to hear, but is actually, it's gaining some more momentum, but it's not stopping Bill Gates from throwing billions of dollars at it. That this virus seems to be mutating at a rate that a vaccine wouldn't work or even come close to working. Because by the time the vaccine gets out, the virus will be an all-new virus altogether, if that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. That's kind of how flu shot works.
Yeah.
Only it's slow enough to where, like you said, when they get it wrong, it's close enough to maybe work a little.
Yeah, and
Except for when we have 70,000 deaths in a year, and then they obviously got it way wrong.
Right. And Luke makes a fantastic point, is that, like, with influenza vaccines, they're close enough to where the mutation hasn't been astronomical. And so the antibodies that your body creates are pretty close, or in some cases exact, but in other cases not, to fend off the virus, or at least keep you, once you do get the virus, keep you from getting deathly ill and dying from it.
Right.
In this case, it's replicating and mutating so fast, it doesn't seem a vaccination would be a viable defense against it. But so anyways, I think we're done.
You did a great job
with this.
I like it. You could have used more colors.
You're right.
It's all in blue.
I've always been a blue guy, though. It's I went with a blue theme on my bracelets.
Red's
today.
hard to see on camera.
Yeah, but it is a motivating color,
It is.
from what I've read. Chris,
Don't bring me into this.
your opinion on the color red?
Don't bring me into this. Leave me alone. I'm over here in my world, minding my business. Why you gotta do that? Why you gotta try to pull me into stuff?
So I think up to this point, let me touch on this, and maybe we'll take another
Good idea.
break. I feel like I'm just bleh.
No, you're
A
doing
lot of
great.
stuff.
I don't want to interrupt.
We talked about crossover into species, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, bats, rodents, and avian for the gamma and delta. So the crossover in, see, we're talking betas in 2002, so that would be rodents. Led to that first one we talked to, SARS, and then later MERS, which was, I believe, bats to camels, the Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. Did we ever find out a different name for that?
No, that is that's what they call it.
Okay.
They call it
It's
MERS.
They call it MERS, but it's also called EMC.
EMC.
That's correct.
What does EMC mean?
Have no idea. That's just like their COVID.
Okay,
Because
so
it's MERS, it's MERS, COV,
yeah.
and then or EMC 2012.
Okay, so we've got SARS, MERS /EMC 2012, which was bat to camel to human, and
EMC is a medical facility in Rotterdam, Netherlands.
okay, so maybe
kind of like the Spanish
maybe that's
flu,
where they
like,
narrowed
hey, we
it down
found
or
it.
something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I think I went into the Spanish flu initially. And
We have to when we come back. We'll have to talk about that
Right. Thank you.
because I want to reread that
Thank you.
that
The
letter from.
So, and before we take this break, all of those lead into upper respiratory and infections of the cellular makeup of your alveoli, which can create a very volatile, inflammatory response, which becomes even more dangerous. And after we take this break, we'll talk about that and other things.
Perfect. You ready?
All right.
All right. We'll be back.
Welcome back, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed that last word from our sponsors. We had some good conversation that is going to kind of drive some of the part of this segment of the podcast. A big thing everyone's been talking about is how COVID-19, how it's referred to and been referred to in the media from the beginning. And when I say media, I mean all media. I'm not just talking about, I'm not just singling you out, Fox News. It's we try to be as fair as possible here.
You could have been singling out fake news.
I'm not singling you out. The name I just called out that I'm singling out.
Well, CNN is just as egregious, I believe, in how it reports anything. So I try to be like Fox News. I try to be fair and balanced.
Give it a whirl. You try real hard.
I know.
I'm not. I'm biased as all get out.
But anyway, so is what I'm talking. If you're like, Heath, get to the fucking point, which I know Luke and Chris are saying that to themselves. Why have they been calling it the China virus, and what is wrong about calling it the China virus? A lot of things, and that's what's gonna, like I said, what's gonna drive this part of the podcast is it's number one. It's the big argument that I've heard people give as to why is this virus was mad cow disease. It was called mad cow, and PETA didn't shit their pants about it.
But they did.
Well, and there's things that happen, and then
Where did mad cow disease start?
I believe in England.
I thought it did too.
And its actual name when it is transferred to humans, I believe, is called it's like bovine something, but more commonly Creutzfeldt-Jakob
yes.
disease.
Wow, that's how you say Creutzfeldt?
Yeah.
Wow, the spelling on that's horrendous.
But let me see it.
Creutzzelf.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe Creutzfeldt.
Sure, whatever.
But
It's fatal.
But more commonly referred to as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. Another one is people. It's really just unimaginative by people that are finding out reasons why to call it the China flu or the China virus, because most of their defenses for it are inaccurate. But Spanish flu was another one. Spanish flu had nothing to do with the origination of anything in Spain or close to it. There's three prevailing theories that we talked about, and one of them is it started in Eastern Europe. The King of Spain eventually contracted it and died, and it was bestowed that name upon his death. Another one is, let's see, help jog my memory, guys.
Oh, God, you just told me. Oh, because you're propaganda, Spanish-American War.
Oh, right. Another one was upon its discovery
money's on that.
in Kentucky. around the time of the Spanish-American War, it was this new flu was given the name Spanish flu as a form of propaganda against Spain, which would be very likely and would coincide to what we've done against any other country we've been at war against. As far as propaganda goes, renaming hamburgers and schnitzel and
French fries.
yeah, and freedom fries and
God,
all
me
sorts
some
of that
freedom fries.
stuff.
That's how old you are, by the way.
Yeah, so
What, freedom fries?
I remember
freedom fries.
living in LA when freedom fries became a thing, and because it was so many of the demonstrations at the time were going on down in Los Angeles, led by everyone's favorite talking head, Alec Baldwin, who
Oh, here we go.
he will make just empty threats, like I'm gonna leave the United States. Alec Baldwin, you've said that about 17,000 times. You're still here. Okay, so what is it really going to take you to get the fuck out?
This is where his money is. So
Yeah.
you stop paying him, and then maybe at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
But until then, mind your business.
And it's an interesting thing. It goes back to a lot of French actors who have been all over the French government. Jacques.
Well, that was
Jacques,
incredibly racist.
Whoever over there, but a lot of very affluent, wealthy French have given him a ton of shit because the same thing. They're trying to leave the country because the taxation obviously is massive because of the political system that they run there, but. Same thing. They keep threatening to leave the country, and some of them have to avoid the taxes. But because as long as there's something odd. As long as you maintain your French citizenship, you're still legally obligated, no matter what country you live in.
No shit.
So they got him by the balls
get you.
somehow. Like Gerard Depardieu.
Depardieu.
Is that, did I say it right?
Yeah.
Okay. The actor was one of the most fervent in trying to defy this, and it did not work.
Nope.
No.
So back to the.
But anyways, yes, thank you.
Sorry. Freedom fries, man. That's all I said. Just fucking freedom fries.
Hey, wasn't it Freedom Toast for a while too? And you know what's the best part about French fries?
What's that?
They're not French.
No.
That's the best
They're
part
just French potatoes.
about that whole thing. The French did not come up with French fries.
Who did?
Some guy in New York.
Really?
The Belgium.
Belgium?
The Belgians.
The Belgians?
Yeah.
Ooh, because Belgian waffle fries. I think we're the first ones. Okay.
They're frites and
Ah.
they're not French.
Belgium in the late 1600s.
Frites?
Frites. Yes.
I said it like a serious white person there, didn't I? Frites?
I'm not.
El Baño?
Oh, man.
Yeah. But so, and to go along, I think the last one with the Spanish flu was
That's why they're called French fries.
what did we find?
American soldiers stationed in Belgium during the First World War called them French fries because French was the official language of Belgium.
Of Belgium? Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably one of 18 explanations.
You know how we do.
Yeah, it's close enough.
Well, it's just like
People-
with the British in India. Like every dish over there is a curry.
Yeah.
They have hundreds of different types of curry because they didn't want to categorize each type of dish.
Yeah.
So everything just became curry.
Uh-huh.
So
Which is easier but way more confusing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like red curry and green curry and all these other dishes you know to be curry.
Yeah.
They're all actually different dishes.
Huh.
So they're not all curries. They're all called something else, but it's just easier to call them all curry.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Love this country so much.
Yeah, right.
Well, that was British, so this is what we do.
Yeah,
It is what we do.
Colonialism
Oh, here we go.
did some great things.
Nope, stop. I'm not part of this conversation.
But back to the rest of the Spanish flu thing, and I believe the last theory, which seems to be the most prevailing, is that during World War I, when the Spanish flu was wreaking havoc, the country of Spain was the only country that one of the only countries that seemed to be neutral who had a powerful enough press to cover the war and the flu initially. So by proxy, it was bestowed the name, quote, Spanish flu, because all the news of it was coming out of Spain. So, but there's been a lot of instances we talked about on our break. We always kind of powwow when we break from you guys, and Luke and Chris brought up a great point, like as far as, MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, coming out in 2002, that would be incredibly convenient as a propaganda against the Middle East, or perhaps the Muslim community during our war, our never-ending war in the Middle East. That's officially over, but let's be honest.
I think we won it when Bush was still president, so I don't know why we're still there.
Yeah.
I remember seeing the picture.
See, what
Yes.
if I told you about
declared
thinking?
victory on the aircraft?
Yeah. We win, and you're like, who would have thought in 2020 we'd still be like,
Will Ferrell has an amazing Broadway show that he did where he reenacts that. It is fucking priceless.
Luke, what if I told you about thinking?
I try not to, but sometimes I do that.
Man.
So there's that stuff, and so it kind of did dispel what some of you may be thinking or justifying it to yourself. Well, there's nothing wrong with it because this and this and this. Well, okay, historically, yeah, the very first names that were bestowed upon those diseases were put there because we kind of have grown from sort of not just our nation in particular, but the world in general is kind of bigoted historically. And so it's, those names might have been okay then, but just like, referring to some ethnicities by a certain way may have been commonplace back in the day. It's definitely not commonplace or even close to being acceptable now.
Can I
Yeah, please.
step in real quick? And I understand that you're trying to be very politically correct with what you're saying, but I am not the best at being politically correct. So I have just a few words for some of those out there who are, I don't know, doing stupid shit like attacking Asian Americans, telling them to go back to China, this, that, and the other. There's a food truck in town who is not a friend of the show, but I enjoy her food. She's really good. Kendra's Walk and Roll.
Oh,
if anyone
my bike
ever get a
passing?
chance, get a chance to go out there, you should. But she had someone yell at her from their car, "Go back to China."
Are you shitting me?
So all you very small-minded people who don't have anything else to do but hate and let hate fuel you, from the bottom of my heart, just deep down, go fuck yourselves.
I second that.
That's fair.
Because especially at a time like this where you can see, I mean, so many different groups come together trying to make do with what's happening, trying to work together, and to use, I'm not even sure what to call it, to just spread hate unnecessarily is by far one of the dumbest things you could possibly do.
It's dumb, and it's I'll take it a step further. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but it's so funny because when you look on the outskirts, when I look on the outskirts, instead of one group coming to the aid of this other group that's being protected, they're just jumping in on it, which to me doesn't make any sense because at one point you were the victim, and it's like, well, we're not, it's not on us anymore, so now we can just be like everyone else. No, fuck that. Go fuck yourselves too. We won't be able to beat this until we can come together as a people.
Right.
and say this is what we are and this
As
is how we're
opposed to
gonna stand.
one group saying, well, we were repressed at one time, so we'll just call it this or something
Yeah.
like that. Or okay. I think
Yeah.
Okay,
And
I just
so,
want to make sure I understood.
so yeah, I just wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, you know,
No, fuck, Chris. That's exactly what I think, and been in some. I recently started re-engaging in stuff like that with people on social media, and a lot of the kickback that I've gotten from a lot of people is justification for a lot of those reasons, and it's just as everything else progresses, science, literature, whatever, medicine, all that stuff, our way of thinking has to progress a little bit too. There's a point of friction where it becomes like, okay, like I know there's a nostalgia of holding on to the past in a way, which I can understand, but do that in the privacy of your own home, or do it around like a group of people that believe what you believe or something like that. It's but to expect it to be I guess a widely and commonly acceptable phrasing of your opinion, that's expecting a lot, especially now.
I have something to add.
Yes.
So, I'm not defending, especially not racism in any way, because that's stupid to think that Chinese people have the Chinese flu. That's insane.
well,
And maybe we should have seen it coming. Like, maybe we should have realized, people are morons. If we call this the China flu or the Chinese flu or the Wuhan virus, like, people are going to think, oh, anybody, because let's be honest, we can't tell them apart. We can't. Just like
Right, and there's none of
anybody
racist
who's
about
Asian-
it. Yeah, it's just like if you look at a group of 50 white people, you don't know what
I have no
country
idea.
they emanated from.
Exactly.
it's like-
So, I'm not saying we shouldn't have seen it coming, but as we were talking about off camera, in February, everyone was calling it the China flu or the Wuhan virus. Everyone. And all of a sudden in April, that is no longer okay. And I have to somewhat relate to the people that are like, okay, what the fuck happened? Like, I missed the memo. No one came out and
Well,
said, oh my God, we're so sorry. We should have known. No one did.
and the problem with that was that when it was being reported on, that's what they were calling it.
Right. So in February.
Because that's what it was at that time. They sensationalized it. Like, this is what's going to sell. You know, how long have we been in conflict with China? Like, not war-wise, but money.
Basically, in a
The whole
cold,
and the whole
since World War II.
the whole trade war that we're
the
bringing up
1800s.
right now. You know, like I said when we were off camera, whoever we're in conflict at the moment seems to be the fall guy for everything. You look at movies, you know,
Ooh, old
just
Superman
pick a year.
cartoons.
You know, pick a movie. What was it? The remake of that one movie with Wolverines. Come on, someone.
Oh God, yeah, Red Dawn.
Yeah, thank you. The remake
Yeah.
of Red Dawn. You know, we were Russia and North Korea.
Right.
At the time, who we beefing with? Russia and North Korea.
Right.
You know, whatever group we're beefing with at the moment, that's the group we can stigmatize.
Right.
So,
And I think but I, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think I completely pick up what you're saying, because we talked about it in our break. That's not, and to point that out is not racist and bigoted in any way, shape, or form. One, I think the only thing we can maybe glean from that is, and we should know better because we dedicated an entire podcast to bias and how
Right.
easy biases are formed. So if there's anybody out there that should know this, it's the people that we regurgitated. It's the people we regurgitated their studies from and ourselves.
Yeah.
That should not
once you know
that
it,
should know about how easy biases are to be formed. So I look at it as yes, it's hypocritical. That some media outlets that went balls to the wall with calling it that initially.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them.
There was no coronavirus, COVID-19 in February. It was the China flu or the Wuhan virus.
And it would. So I guess I'm thankful that at some point the reminder came in, like, hey, like someone stepped in on either side. I don't know, left or right. I'm not trying to leave the politics out of this, which is nearly impossible. But that somebody came in and said, hey, there might be some dangerous connotations that come along with this.
How would you like to be that guy, though?
Yeah, because everybody probably looked at him like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah. It's like, ooh, maybe we want to pull back on, the whole.
Yeah, because it's obviously it's bad shit can happen. I mean, if the
Did
beer
you say bad shit?
no pun intended.
Terrible.
But no,
I really thought you
because
did.
like you said, like you were about to say, Corona's they're not making Corona anymore.
Right. It's if it can affect the beer sales of Corona beer by the bias people have attached to just the name Corona, then it's not a monumental leap to think that people will start attaching this to the Chinese.
Yeah. Well,
and then not just the Chinese, but Asians in general.
No, they're already doing that. There are people around the world, not just the United States.
Well, mom and daughter were stabbed to death.
Yeah. Like when I talked about one of my favorite food trucks.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
She's Laos. She is not Chinese. And it's like, it doesn't matter to some people because
And she's
of that
parked
butt.
way out by PNNL now, which I'm not sure if that has anything to do with the harassment she's gotten.
No, this is like during this whole time, you know what she's been doing? She's been still working, delivering food, but also delivering lunches to hospital workers. Her, a couple other food trucks got together, Dovetail Joint and Richland got together.
Right, yeah, I saw
and
that.
they're providing lunches to these people that are working in hospitals and don't get a chance.
And let's take this opportunity. Can you say their names again? Dovetail
Joint, Ninja Bistro, and Kendra's Walk and Roll.
And those are all local here in Richland,
Yeah,
Washington.
Kendra Walk and Roll and Ninja Bistro are food trucks, so they'll move around. And Dovetail Joint is in Richland in the Uptown.
Okay, and they're all. I know Dovetails on Instagram.
Yep.
You guys can probably find them all on social media. Support the businesses that support those that take care of us.
Yeah, but
please.
she's out there like taking care of her business and not minding her business. And someone who's passing by yells out of the car, "Go back to China."
Yeah,
It's
and that's it, and that's all it takes is a little bit, and that's where I I didn't just have a stroke.
I was about to say, do we need to
I've seen this happen on camera. I watched this newscast.
I don't like to jump on the anti-Trump thing again because I think it happens so much
It's very crowded up there.
It mutes the point a little bit, but that's been one of my frustrations with him.
This was going on before Trump, though.
I know, but I'm talking about it perpetuates when the people that are out in front of the community. It's called top of mind awareness.
No.
So when it's like in advertising, it's the same thing. When you put out something, you hope to be on the top of someone's mind. So you use key phrases or interesting things to make sure you're the first thing that pops into mind. So when you're watching that on TV, and you are a supporter or not a supporter of our current president, and that can create a top of mind awareness, which is where then biases start to form and trickle down from stuff like that. Yeah. So that has been one of my criticisms about him, is that it would just be easy for him to just call it COVID-19, which I think he is now.
He is now, yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
He is.
Okay, I've the last few updates I've watched, I believe he's changed. And this is just my opinion. And again, I don't want to throw a ton of anti-Trump stuff on because I know some people will just like plug their ears and be like la la la, and the people that hate him will be like, yeah, say more. So I don't want to get involved in that. But that was one of my criticisms of this happening initially, and to what I understand, I believe he has changed his tune to that.
I'm just trying to figure out, like you said, a mother and daughter was killed.
Mm-hmm.
What person in their right mind thinks that me killing these two females is going to stop the virus right here?
Or how they're responsible at all, like how this was at all their fault.
Or the guy that killed his fiance because he thought she may have exposed him to the virus.
Chris, the same people that burned down mosques after 9/11.
Yeah.
There's
those people were geniuses.
It's kind of that old adage, like us as individuals are coherent, pretty reasonable people, but when you get
a group of
us
together?
into a group,
Sheeple.
yeah, that
Gotcha.
it's that narrative changes really quickly, and that's again should be used as a reminder of how easily we kind of let our guard down and allow ourselves to be kind of manipulated. I think just seeing what the media sort of does in general should be,
I think,
people's exhibit 1A of that. I think, and that's just my opinion.
No, I think we touched on that last time because we talked about the one that never came out, but we talked about the dangers of misinformation and stuff like that. But yeah,
and this would be a great segue into misinformation or not. I would like to touch on the use of chloroquine,
You want to go into that?
if we could, unless someone else has some other stuff.
no, sir. Do what you got to do.
How long have we been going?
I don't know. Did you want to take another break before we jump into this? Or?
Should we? Maybe we should.
Yeah,
Let's
maybe
do
we
it.
should, just to gather my shit.
Quick break.
Okay.
All
Thanks,
right,
guys.
We'll be back. So, yes, COVID-19, the great equalizer. All of a sudden, nobody can see your face, and everyone's getting fat because the gyms are closed.
Yeah, would you guys recap
Hope-
what Aaron was just talking
Hope
about?
you're all working on your summer personalities.
Yeah, right.
There's been nothing better that's come out of this than the fucking tweets. Oh my god.
Oh shit! Like you guys got to get Twitter accounts.
I see it
No.
on Instagram.
I
don't
can't
have-
do
It's
Twitter.
it's so good.
I'm a very Evans. I don't know if you know this about me. I don't like people.
I know. I'm
This
just saying, like,
COVID-19
and
has been
I
the
don't
best
like.
thing.
I'm an introvert that sort of moonlights as an extrovert.
Can you imagine me getting into a Twitter beef with some?
Oh,
Some
you just don't like.
I'm gonna find that person in real life.
I write my responses and then I erase them.
It's like I'm
90% of the time.
I'm gonna find you in real life. I'm gonna come to your house. I'm gonna knock on your door, and we're gonna have a conversation.
You said that shit, man.
We're gonna have a conversation about what you said about my mama.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. You can't take it back.
Hey, man, internet trolls. Hey, they're a real thing.
Dude,
They're willing to say anything.
Oh, yeah.
because of the whole hiding behind the internet.
I just write them off as Russian bots. Like that's what,
Jesus.
anyone that says something like that's just like, huh?
You know, they're
I'm just
probably
like
American.
I'm just like that's a Russian bot.
You know Americans do that shit, right?
Oh,
like
yeah.
that's what we
Oh
specialize
yeah,
in.
yeah.
I like it.
But it's easier for me if I'm just like it's when someone like chimes on one of my like Twitter threads. I'm just like, you're a Russian bot. I'm ignoring you.
Well, it's funny because there's a
Probably makes
comedian.
them so mad.
Yeah.
There's a comedian I follow, and every now and then she'll post when someone starts trolling her.
Oh, the comedians have come up with some of the best shit I've ever seen
and
during
the,
this.
and the returns to the troll. Oh
Yeah.
my god!
Like they're on fucking in fuego during
Oh,
this
yeah.
is with all the material because it's just they're losing their minds. And yeah,
I mean, I thought about taking up jogging. Yeah,
I believe it's a soft J.
It's jogging.
Chris.
jogging.
Jogging.
Oh, my fault.
It's an Anchorman reference. It's from SOC.
That feels weird. I don't like that. That felt weird. I didn't like-
It
I
is
didn't
weird,
appreciate
but
that.
so is jogging. Jogging is also
Yes,
weird.
jogging would be
Just
weird.
weird. Kinda run for a really
extreme
long
it's
time.
gotten. That's how extreme it's gotten.
You're gonna take up jogging?
I thought about doing that.
Well, that's still farther than you've gotten.
Yeah, I mean, again, if I'm
still a
running,
step.
something's chasing me. Is it trying to kill me, or
Yeah, or
Am
that.
I-
or that.
am I already dead because I'm in hell because I'm doing cardio?
What's hell to you? Cardio. Cardio. Hell would be cardio.
Oh God.
The internet has been grand.
It has. There's been. I mean, there has been some stuff. Like I'm hoping some of these comedians are writing some of their shit down, because like I'll scroll through Twitter, and I will just be howling because some of this stuff is just fucking incredible, and it's because they've got.
No, don't let me interrupt.
Oh
Keep
no,
going.
no! You show this to me.
Yeah, I want you to
week.
read it. You're the
okay.
reader.
So
This is the Spanish flu,
okay.
because we don't know what else to call it. Sorry, Spain. But
I'm sure
this
Spain
is
doesn't care.
This is pre-Twitter. Same shit was
So-
going on.
well,
You
that was
put
a-
people in quarantine and they go nuts. It's hilarious.
That was a good disclaimer beforehand. This is
I try. Like
The,
if I knew something else, I would. But
so a letter from F. Scott Fitzgerald, author of The Great Gatsby, I believe.
I'm gonna go with it.
Correct. We looked it up. Remember?
Quarantined in 1920 in the south of France during the influenza outbreak. Dearest Rosemary, it was a this is a great word. Limpid, dreary day. It sounds like my dick on most
It's
days.
just
Yeah.
I think that's what that means. actually.
And we go back to lowbrow. Good job.
Hung as in a basket from a single dull star. I thank you for the letter. Outside, I perceive what may be a collection of fallen leaves tussling against a trash can. It rings like jazz to my ears. The streets are that empty. It seems as though the bulk of the city has retreated to their quarters. Rightfully so. At this time, it seems very poignant to avoid all public spaces, even the bars. As I told Hemingway, but to that he punched me in the stomach. To which I asked if he had washed his hands. He hadn't.
God.
He is much the denier, that one. Why he considers the virus to be just influenza, I'm curious of his sources. The officials have alerted us to ensure we have a month's worth of necessities. Zelda and I have stocked up on red wine, whiskey, rum, vermouth, absinthe, white wine, sherry, gin, and Lord, if we need it, brandy. Please pray for us.
Their grocery list is my favorite part
Yeah.
of that, but not by much.
I'm going to take a flyer and say that there's quite a few of you out there that have stocked up in the same way.
Not as many as you would think.
Which is
Yeah,
surprising.
you go to Costco. There's still plenty of bottles left,
Plenty of booze, dude.
but no toilet paper.
I
No
guess
toilet paper.
it's so odd.
God, that just cracks me up. So yeah, nothing's changed. It's been 100 years. Nothing has changed. At all. You ready?
No, yeah, true. No, stupid people are still stupid,
Yeah.
and
Nothing's changed.
intellectuals.
People are still like,
smart.
nah, I won't get sick. Other people are like, I better lock myself in my house for a month.
I did enjoy that. To which I asked, "Have you washed your hands?"
Yes, have you washed your hands?
Yes. Just
That was that's like the equivalent of you and me. You know, and you punch me in the face, and I'm like, I hope you cleaned your hands first. You're like, no, I
No,
didn't.
and then that would be what made
It's
you
like,
mad.
Luke, you can't go to the level up. We're in quarantine,
That's
and then you sucker punch me.
take that. God, that's hilarious. You shouldn't go to bars, and that's enough to make someone just haul off and hit you.
I mean, except for now the bars are closed, so I don't have a choice.
Sucks so hard.
But that's,
Although-
so back then the bars just said, "Fuck it, we're not letting this get in the
I
way of
don't
our
know.
profit margin."
I'm gonna go out and research that.
because that's an interesting thing. Because the first social distancing, I mean, the first mention of it was really, I think, in Leviticus in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
As far as quarantining
Yeah.
and whatnot. So it's definitely not a new practice. So it wouldn't surprise me if
You're
that
talking
was
about the getting out of Egypt, right?
No, that's not.
No, that was Exodus.
Yeah, that's Exodus, not social or.
I thought they quarantined themselves in Exodus too, though.
No, technically, yes, because
Right,
the
they
Jews,
didn't.
and that's a great segue because this is a Passover episode.
Yes.
The Jews did quarantine themselves,
Right.
But that was because of the.
just to mark the
plagues.
doors
Yeah,
so
that
the
was
angel
because
of
of the
death would
plagues.
pass over. We might not have the blood of Christ protecting us, but we've got something much more powerful.
No, why you got?
I had to fit that one in there. Come on, people. Jeez.
Gotta wrap me up in this stuff.
It's all in good fun. I'll be the first to die.
Oh, that makes me feel better. Yeah,
Karma's a bitch.
I'll be
like,
third.
you'll be the first to die, but I still gotta die.
But they're quarantined and into an extent of that because to the first 9 plagues they were pretty indiscriminate. Not just obviously all the locusts destroying the food stores and blood in the river.
Return to blood, locust.
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
you got to the
That
boils
affected the food stores of
the boils, the frogs.
The boils are historically now thought to be the smallpox that were raging through the area.
I mean, you give science enough time, they'll find the explanation.
Yeah, and there's because on Ramesses and his successor, even on their mummies, there's evidence of massive boils on the skin and stuff like that.
Oof.
So it
Yeah.
appears to be smallpox, but there's no. I don't know if the DNA evidence exists from it, but
Well, now that we're talking about medical science, you want to
the
hydrochloroquine.
it's a good segue. Medication that you've probably, if you were born after the Vietnam War or I don't know after the I don't know
And what if you were born before the Vietnam War?
French, French War with Vietnam, everything like that. There was probably a drug you've probably never heard of, unless you are a fan of gin and tonics. Yeah.
As am I.
And talking about quinine, in this instance, it's in that same family of drugs, but it's this one in particular is chloroquine, which is being talked about as
It's hydroxychloroquine.
hydroxychloroquine.
Quine. There's not quinine in it.
The queen, yeah,
Yeah,
queen.
hydroxychloroquine.
The
Call that.
and that's been around in the media a lot. Our president is talking about it pretty frequently. So let's talk about that for a little bit. Some history behind what quinine and any derivative of it in the medication form, what it does. It's created as an anti-malarial. It has since been opened up its use to autoimmune diseases, certain anemias and whatnot, and that's because it it attacks essentially parasites in the red blood cell, which was a remnant of what mosquitoes would leave in when we were at war with Indochina and the countries of like Vietnam, Laos, historically when the French occupied those areas before we let ourselves in, and India and other really tropical areas. Malaria is a real concern. But quinine and any derivative of it was prescribed to soldiers, travelers.
Since the 1700s.
Okay.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
Long time, yeah. So like I said, it keeps these parasites out of the red blood cells. A byproduct of it, though, is an interesting one, and this takes some research, so it's not like your layman should be expected to know it. But as I kind of mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, now more than any other time in your life, you've got time to read up on this stuff.
But Heath, I play video games.
I know.
Do I still have time to look this stuff up?
It's and that's an excellent point. That's there are
Go on, just keep going.
Yeah, there
Bumpers.
are some but so in doing so, it in looking up the history of chloroquine, its mechanism of action, that's just a fancy way for saying how it works, the physiology of it at the cellular level, can start to tell you a little bit more about this drug and sort of, either make you more or less confident about it being talked about. I'll just say it right off the bat. I think it is far too early to be talking about it on television right now. As far as the data that needs to be qualified and quantified on it in humans, but that's just me. And the information I give you will probably kind of tell the story of why I think that. The chloroquine, or any drug in the family of these hydroxychloroquinines or quinines, work very well on people with robust immune systems. They do, as I mentioned earlier, also help with people with autoimmune disorders, for the particular reason of it has through a certain physiological processes, it raises the pH of what's called a lysosome. It's a little thing, couple of things that float around in each cell, and they are very particular about the pH that they operate in. Just like everything else in your body, they want what's referred to as called homeostasis, and that's a balance, fancy word for saying balance, which is around like 5.5 to 7. Chloroquine has a propensity to raise the pH in these, which raised pH in a lysosome can, will, and does inhibit the process that's called phagocytosis. Now, why you should remember that term, phagocytosis, is it's one of the first inflammatory responses of your body to block pathogens and dispel waste of dead cells or waste created by the free radicals created in the fighting off of disease or pathogen. So when phagocytosis is inhibited, that allows a accumulation of pathogens and or free radical dead cell material to accumulate, which can lead to a host of minor health diseases up to and including very devastating forms of cancer. So that's a worst case scenario in using these. And granted, I'll also say that is with chronic use of any of these drugs in the quinines family. And so that your next question might be asked, okay, if they do that, then why are they using it with people with autoimmune diseases and things of that nature, or people with malaria? That would be a good question, is because, and this is part of the reason why they want to experiment it with the coronavirus, is for that same reason of how it can be dangerous, it can also help. Because as we alluded to, I know we did it in the first episode, but I can't remember if I did it earlier in this one, the propensity of upper respiratory problems to cause a massive inflammatory response.
I don't think we did in this one. No, go ahead.
Okay, so to give you just a very quick abbreviated version, upper respiratory problems and up to including lung infections or any bacteria or virus that attacks the alveoli, has a very, very high propensity to have it sounds stupid, but super duper inflammatory response.
You said that the
And-
last episode too.
and that can hinder. It can, when the inflammatory response is fully engaged on something and your immune system depressed, it can allow other pathogens or pathogenic virals to enter your system, the term I like to use is sort of backdoor you. When one avenue is closed because they're fighting, it's easy to kind of sneak in, because their forces are divided. It'd be like if you're fighting a war on multiple fronts. Your inflammatory system can only do so much. So is what it does to so that being the abbreviated version. So to help with autoimmune disorders and whatnot, it sort of does the same thing. Like if you had, lupus, or which is one of the big ones it's prescribed for, it's dampening, it's turning down the damper of the inflammatory system that allows your body not to kill itself, kind of, for more or less. For lack of a better term. But just like lupus, not all autoimmune disorders are created equal. HIV, AIDS is an autoimmune disorder. Things as simple as like psoriasis and eczema are autoimmune disorders, and can vary in their intensity. So that's why it's used for those. But those same people with those diseases, they are operating on a day-to-day basis with a depressed immune system. And with chronic use of these drugs, one of the byproducts of an accumulation of those is more autoimmune diseases, and cancers and things like that. And I don't want to go too far off the rails, but if you are history buff, you can look back into the beginning of HIV. There's been a lot of links that some prominent scientists around the world are actually making to this COVID-19 and the HIV virus, because its incubation period gets longer with every time it mutates. HIV, when it initially came out, had a very short incubation period, which killed your immune system and killed off people with odd cancers. Kaposi sarcoma is probably one you've heard of. Feline, really odd ones like feline leukemia, and respiratory illnesses and whatnot. And I'm not saying there's a connection between the two at all, but I'm just saying the matter in which it's progressing, there are parallels, and there's been enough parallels that some scientists in other countries are looking a little deeper into it. But it reminds me of the beginning, the first version of a drug called AZT that was put out to as an antiviral to help the AIDS virus. It worked in a similar fashion that chloroquine does or any drug in the quinine family. Works as far as depressing the immune system. AZT went one step further, and like chloroquine, was originally designed for use in fighting different maladies, in this case cancer. But is what it did. AZT went in and inhibited the DNA from replicating, which is how HIV eventually turns into full-blown AIDS, when it replicates itself enough to completely take over your body. So it was supposed to inhibit in the DNA because cancer cells replicate just the same way as they masticize more and more. So that some of those parallels have been drawn, like this. Again, have we talked about biases when this is talked about? And I don't want to insinuate that I know that doctors are just going to freely prescribe this, knowing that this all happens. Obviously, just like any other medication, it's going to be on a person by person basis, but that's kind of how medications are done out now. And there's a host of medications that we already take every day that are already doing this to our body. So, you exacerbate it by throwing chloroquine on top of that. There's potential for danger to varying degrees. It could be very little. It could be big. Depends on, from person to person. My problem with talking about it with this drug, it's not in the efficacy of its use. It's that it's getting the intended. When it's used, it's getting the intended result. It's that there needs to be a lot more data, qualified and quantified, before we start talking about it on national television, because this is where people start to be like, they hear that this drug is working with people, and then they stop hearing at the end that talk to your healthcare provider about it. And social pressure starts from the top down, and that's how a lot of medications end up at the forefront and being prescribed by doctors, because they're pushed about, they're talked about. The drug companies, if you think that chloroquine or the manufacturers of any of the family of quinine drugs, that is no doubt going to be pushed upon the American people here in the next few months, I think your head is in the sand, because there's a massive amount of money to be gained on this, whether it works or not. Here's why. There is a caveat that exists within the legal system that any drug approved for emergency use, or a vaccine for that matter, if it kills you, causes irreparable damage, anything of that nature, you give birth to a 3-headed baby, the government and that pharmaceutical company are completely exempt from retribution being monetary retribution being sought out. Thank you, by the family. GlaxoSmithKline, the number one manufacturer of vaccines in America, and the initial maker of AZT, which started killing AIDS patients instead of helping them, because they got they had not added a component of the molecular structure that made it do what they wanted it to do initially, but it didn't stop them from prescribing it to tens of thousands of AIDS patients and killing hundreds. There's no retribution for people to seek. So the danger for this drug getting out on the open market because of political pressure, and we're already seeing that it's obvious that politicians on both sides of the aisle, liberal, conservative, Democrat, and Republican, are taking advantage of what's going on or not going on in the market right now, which has been big in the news. There's been talk of different senators right now selling off or buying up certain shares of pharmaceutical companies right now. That, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it's not a stretch to think that. And they've kind of got us by the balls in a way, which makes me angry. But maybe now more than any time, we can stand up and say, like, yeah, the big pharma and all the medications that you guys have been giving us that are kind of killing us just in a different way. Maybe we're sick of that, and we want things to, maybe now is where we really stand up against it. I know it's a horrible time to do it, obviously, because people are dying, and I do not minimize that in any way, shape, or form. But there's always going to be a reason why we can't do it now. And so that's kind of where I'm at with this drug, just in what I know about it. It's and again, I'll repeat, for its efficacy of use for what it's intended for is fantastic. It works very well. But when you start prescribing a drug for stuff that it's not used for, you owe it to the general public to find out everything you can before you give it to them. Because if people start taking this drug and dying from it, you can say, well, maybe they would have died from coronavirus anyways. If the benefit is a net zero, I'm not sure what the point of it is, but at the very least, we need to do more research to find out if it would even be that. And it could end up being an amazing drug that fixes all this or helps a ton of people. But to assume that it helps with one thing because of its mechanism of action, to assume that it will help with something else because they're very similar, is ludicrous medically. Physiology and biology from person to person is very nuanced. That would be assuming that because this drug helps with lupus, it will cure AIDS. That would be sort of the jump because they're both autoimmune diseases. Coronavirus does attack the immune system, and some inhibitions that it creates within at the cellular level can help with certain things, but I think it's way too early to be pushing it and talking about it and creating a buzz about it before we know.
How long do you think it'd take to know, though?
That's a good question.
It's a year and a half, right? It's like 18 months.
AZT, it took 7 years to get
so
out. That was
minimum
the first, and it's and that's a great question. Like and I've thought about this a ton because I'm like, okay, well, what's the alternative?
I was gonna say,
Just dying.
What's the price point? Because
It's cheap as fuck.
that'll determine how.
But that's another thing.
Hydroxychloroquine is super cheap.
No, it
it's
is
so old
right now.
Well, right.
And because
supply and
is all they would have to do essentially is change one isotope within it, and they could call it a completely new drug and charge
And
three
charge
times as
whatever.
much.
Right, but your good pharmacy and your good doctor will still say, we're going to give you
the generic.
the generic,
Yeah.
right?
That
they do
is
that all the
They
time.
have to come out with a generic.
Now
version.
that's
Well,
a good,
hydroxychloroquine
well, no,
would
there
be
is a
the
generic.
There is? Okay.
That is to say, if the big companies don't buy up the generics.
Yeah.
Right, like EpiPens
Yeah,
and shit.
what's
That's
happening, like,
that's
right
their
now?
thing
there's-
to do.
Check out stocks. See what's selling. See what's going
Right.
like that. And I bet that'll give you your answer.
And it's just
within a couple
interesting.
months.
And granted, other administrations may have been as vocal about certain things, like specific companies or specific drugs, as this, but I can't remember. And if it has happened and I've just shut it out, I'm totally open to that. But just naming something specifically on television, and then when your lead medical advisor tries to speak up about it, you shush him on national television. Like it's the optics. I don't know what's going on. Like, again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. The optics aren't good as far as I'm concerned, but I just think there needs to be a lot more data. And there's a lot of people that are that I've heard jump on some of the stuff I've posted on social media, saying I would rather have someone doing something than nothing. Well, that doing something just for the sake of doing something is not a good thing a lot of times.
So I guess to make you feel better, so this didn't start with the president. This started with the doctor in New York who said he had great results.
Right.
Anecdotal. Yeah, 300 patients is anecdotal in a medical study. Nobody gives a shit. Now France has done 1 or 2 studies, and they're like, it didn't help, didn't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
If it would have started with a politician, any politician, you'd be like, hey, man, what the fuck? But it started with someone who was like, yeah, shit, this might work. And it, in his experience with his patients, it did.
Yeah, but the problem is when you have someone in a position like that, that's one person doing a study, and it's probably very limited in who sees the study and who hears this information.
Right. So if in his experience, he was like, this is super helpful, I should tell everyone. Well, he told Fox News, I think is what he went on.
Yeah, and that's
That
the problem.
reached just about no one. then the president comes on and says the exact same thing that guy says, not because the president has any stake in it, just because
He has people.
this
he has
guy
ears.
said it would work, and he's like, well, fuck, this must work. Now, gullible or not, maybe it's true, maybe it's not, whatever. The only reason everyone's trying it is because the doctor said something first, and then the president jumped on that and said, shit, sounds like it works. We'll talk about it too. Because as you know, anything Trump says, it's a headline.
Right.
Everything he says is
And
a
that's the
headline.
problem right there. That doctor should have done better in his little circle.
And
Or maybe
research.
it actually does work.
because it does because on occasion it does it like the AIDS again. I'll draw another parallel to that. It took one doctor not agreeing with the majority of the research that was going on to be like, hey, this isn't right. The virus that we think it is not the virus we think it is. It's because there was a Nobel Prize winner that wanted it to be the virus he discovered called
Right.
HTLV. Ended up fighting back and forth with France for fucking years over who got the rights to say they discovered AIDS. So
Like the Spanish flu
there's-
thing all over again.
Yeah, so you obviously don't want a situation like that that's mired in litigation or red tape. And I've said this about Trump many times before. I don't necessarily have a problem that he's talking about it. I have a problem he's talking about it in the manner that he's talking about it. It seems sort of fast and loose. If he would talk and kind of give like some of the who, what, when, where, whys, like we're doing this, and give some details about what was going on with that New York doctor and some of the results he had. Me personally, I'd be like, okay, some of that makes sense, or that all makes sense. Or if I'm a total anti-Trumper, I would just be blah blah blah. Wait till he's done talking and be like, "You're trying to kill all of us,"
Right.
You know. And but at least there's been like an explanation of it.
Yeah, we've
And-
had this conversation before.
Yeah, so I think if he would take that time, it would at least give people time to pause and either decide whether or not they really want to be pissed off about it, or if it's dangerous for him to do it. But at least it comes off that the appearance that he's not as pompous as he's come off in other instances, and stubborn, just to be sort of stubborn and pompous.
He's stubborn.
Which he yeah, and he kind of does that. But I think it was all it would take for him to take like a 5-minute fucking break during one of his addresses and be like, okay, guys, I know there's been a lot of fucking backlash about this. This isn't a sign of weakness that I'm taking the time to explain myself, but here's why, and this is why we think it has promise. I'm not asking you guys to buy into it right now, but at a certain point, we might.
Heath, what have I told you about trying to be reasonable?
Well, I know, but
you're trying to use reason.
that's the difference between a good leader and a.
You're trying to use
Suspect.
reason in a space where there is no reason.
I know
Well, we've had this conversation,
this country needs leadership.
and that's for a different day.
All right, I guess we can probably wrap it up. That was a good podcast.
I think it was.
Is there anything else you want to add?
No,
Okay.
that was good.
Are we coming to an end here?
We are. What you got?
Actually, like last time, I want to thank all the people out there on the front lines that's keeping us safe, keeping us informed, all the first responders, the doctors, the nurses that are out there risking their own health to keep us going. Thank you. And I know this is a scary time for all of us. Well, for a lot of people, I'm not really scared because whatever. All I have is a dog.
We got a room full of stoics in here. Yeah.
If I die, I die.
I have people to take care of my dog. It's okay. But no, really, we're all in this together, and we'll make it through. Just stay strong and listen, people. Just fucking listen.
Oh, just listen. Oh, just listen to.
just
listen to.
fucking listen. Stop being hard headed.
I like it. I'm good with it.
Nothing.
You said everything.
Not
It was
a
great.
goddamn thing, Luke.
Here we go.
Nope. Nope. I got
Now we got on our judging pants.
Okay, Ed, to reiterate what Chris said, yeah, everybody in the front lines kicking ass. We appreciate the hell out of you more than we can ever hope to convey. And again, a point we've all driven across throughout this last episode is you got time now, guys. Do your research. Give some weight to your opinions that you have. Don't base them just off emotion or just base them off of because you traditionally dislike somebody or some party or something like that. There's a lot of good information that comes from both sides of the aisle. A lot. There's a lot of smart people. They don't necessarily always come off like that because some of them can't fucking talk. But there's some good information out there, and there's some stuff to be gleaned from both sides. Use this time to inform yourself. Really inform.
Hear, hear.
I have no idea who you're talking about there. Biden, Pelosi, Trump? Like, what were we talking
not,
about here?
We're not naming names. That's the point. We're not naming names.
I was blanking all of them.
Stop trying to draw them in. All right.
Cheers.